Bates Motel Season 2, Episode 6, Plunge. This was a pretty good episode. One of the greatest things about it was the fact that it took a really big leap into some of the things that are actually happening with Norman, especially him blacking out and Norma finding out about that. And it really set us down this path for the rest of the season that could change dynamically how the entire show operates because the end of this episode ended with Norman accidentally killing Cody's father by pushing him down the stairs. And that entire scene was really interesting because, for one, we really got to see how bad her father was because you can't just like punch a kid who came into your house. I get he was yelling at him, but he put his own daughter in a headlock, and then this guy tries to help her, and he just socks him right in the face. I understand he's on your property, but clearly you're just like choking your kid because you got woken up. I get that, but you don't just choke your kid and then punch another random person in the face because you assume it's your daughter's hookup or whatever. But we really got to see in that moment how bad her father really was. And all Norman was trying to do was help Cody, even though he was mad at her for telling Emma, who of course told Norma that Norman's having these blackouts. But all he was trying to do was help Cody, and that caused her father to get knocked down the stairs. And you could see he was dead. Once he went down, it was like he died. That is it. And this is actually a landmark event for the show where Norman actually killed someone by accident. It wasn't he blacked out and murdered somebody. He killed this guy by accident protecting Cody. And we'll have to see how that changes her character and her relationship with him because even though she sort of hated her dad, she did mention in this episode how they have their moments where they're able to get along when they watch TV, and she does just want them to be happy. So she has these feelings where, excuse me, she's upset with her father. She's mad at him because he's a crappy dad. He's always just angry when he's not getting exactly what he wants. And then she, on the other side of that coin, she still wants him to be happy. She wishes it could just be a typical family situation like Norman has with his mother, where they just get along, and it's as simple as that, and that's what she wants. And she's definitely not going to have that now because her father is dead and she's on her own. So she may not even end up being in the rest of this season because she'll get put in foster care or something. But odds are that's not going to end up happening, and she'll somehow be able to just stay in her home if she gets some form of money out of this. Who knows? But it's going to change their relationship for sure. But it was definitely a great ending to the episode, and there were a ton of other interesting moments too. Um, One that didn't really affect the series or anything like that was when Norma ran up to the car to talk to Cody. I love that scene because Cody's just driving down the street, blaring music, and then she like drifts into the motel a lot. I thought that was hilarious. And Norma, of course, she can hear the music before she even sees the car, and she runs down there after Norman gets in, and she talks to Cody about how Norman can't drink because he blacks out and stuff. Or she doesn't say it, but I think that's what Cody got out of it, is that that's a part of what causes him to be messed up, or it'll make it worse at least. But I did love that scene where she actually ran down to the car to stop them from leaving for a quick second, and then telling Norman you can't hang out with her because she's just bad. It was one thing when she was just playing music, and then the second time she's speeding down the road and just drifts into the motel a lot, even though it's cool. Not exactly responsible, but great episode. And then we see more of Cody sort of pushing Norman to do something, and then when Norma, Emma, Cody, and the other guy, the weed guy, that's all, that's what I'm gonna call him, when they all meet up and they're jumping into the water, and Cody sort of pushes Emma to do it. She doesn't really push her. She more than anything, she pushes Norman to do it, and he does it, and then Emma's sort of just in the moment, and she wants to, and she almost gets hurt because that shock to her system does not help with her breathing, and she almost drowns in the water. And so when everyone helps her, of course Norman freaks out, and I thought he was going to do a lot more, but he just yelled at Cody, and then he yelled at the weed guy when he tried to jump in. But I actually enjoyed that scene. It was a good scene. It it's the closest I feel Norman and Emma have actually been this entire season, which kind of sucked, but it really shows that even though they are a lot separate this season than they were compared to season one, they are still really good friends. They are technically their best friends. They're really the only friends each other has when you think about it. And if Emma does have other friends, they definitely don't show her in the series. But I'm pretty sure it's really just Norman, and they've been fairly separate since she really found out that he was with Bradley, and she just couldn't get him to realize that he likes her or that she likes him. But this episode was good. It brought them a little bit closer together, and she mentioned how she was glad that he cared so much, and she kissed him on the cheek and stuff. And that was a nice scene. It was good to see them actually get really close in this episode, because like I said, they've been fairly separate in these. I guess the first five of this season, they've been really separate from each other. They didn't really talk much, and of course, some of the things that have been happening, Norman can't just spill those secrets, but even small talk, we don't really get that out of them. They have their little conversations here and there, and it all seems like it's in passing for the most part. They say, "Oh, is this that person? How do you know this person? Or how'd you do this and do that?" And then that's pretty much it, and they move on and do what they do throughout the rest of the day. But they got close in this episode. That was pretty good. I don't think they're just gonna magically end up together or anything. I think they're gonna just stick to being friends throughout this entire series. But it was good to see them actually be friends in this episode. I enjoyed that. Also, Dylan is off in another city. He's with the boss. He's been with her this entire episode, so we got to see a little bit of the inner workings of the top of the ladder, pretty much. And she's, as far as I know, she at least has a butler, because she did mention that someone cooked breakfast or cooked dinner for them at one point in the episode, but we don't see anyone else in the house. It's just Dylan and the boss. So that was interesting. We got a little backstory about how the business started up with her parents, and her dad grew weed, and it was really good weed, so they started a big business and then left it to her. And I would assume she's older than her brother. And she wants Dylan to actually run things in town, and she wants him to run things without letting Zane know that he's running things. And I think that's gonna blow up in their faces for sure. I mean, I think it would have been much easier for her to just say, "Hey, I'm pulling you out and sending you somewhere else," compared to telling Dylan to be like a spy in her own business. I think it's just not gonna work, because the character that Zane is, he's not just gonna follow rules. It's gonna be hard for Dylan to just say, "I think we ought to do this instead," or "Why don't I do this instead of that?" and things like that. Just trying to manipulate stuff and change them around to a much smarter version of what Zane came up with isn't gonna be that easy, because Zane is a crazy. I do what comes to my head, just like that is the first thing in my head. That's the first thing I do. That type of character is hard to control, especially when you're trying not to seem like you're trying to control them. So I don't think it's really gonna work too well. It's gonna blow up in their faces at some point. It probably won't get too difficult until they get back into him trying to kill more people from the other cities. So we'll have to wait and see. But this episode, the gang war was sort of pushed aside, and it focused a lot more on Norman and just his character developing, and things being put into light to certain characters, especially his mother, and how that's gonna affect the rest of the episode or rest of the season. But definitely loved the episode. Also loved the part where Dylan's in the house and his boss wakes him up to sleep with him. But I love when she says, "Don't take this personally." I thought that was just really funny, because I've never heard that in a TV show where someone says, "Don't take this personally," and then they sleep with that person. I thought that was really funny, but I also thought it was just interesting writing. So they slept together. Like I said, she said, "Don't take it personally." It won't really mean anything. They might sleep together a bunch more times, and it won't mean a single thing. But I just thought that was an interesting moment, because I've never heard that in TV where someone says that and then they sleep with you. But that was one of the random little moments. Norma also was put on the council, which that's definitely going to help her with the bypass. We'll have to see if she actually gets the bypass shut down, because that's something that's going to be fairly difficult to do, I think. But she got put on the council. Once she went in and the guy mentioned that she knew Ford, it was over. I just knew she got it. There's there's no questions here. Even though, excuse me, even though she told Ford she would go it alone because she found out what Romero said, don't deal with this guy at all, stay away from him at all costs. She actually listened, which I didn't think she was gonna do. I thought she was just gonna do her own thing because she does need that bypass destroyed and that entire deal shut down. But he still helped her out, and I assume that's because he really needs that bypass shut down too. I don't know why yet, but he has his reasons, and odds are they are drug related. But I'm really curious to see how things work out now that she's on the city council and what other random situations come up, especially with Ford being who he is. Maybe he'll come in and say, if it weren't for me, you wouldn't have this seat, and I can get you taken off with the snap of a finger. I'd like to see him come in and actually threaten her, and she has no choice but to listen to him because if she doesn't, then she will lose out on getting rid of the bypass and she'll lose out on business. So I'm excited to see whether or not he does play that card or what other random things he tries to do by maybe sending in random people who aren't necessarily related to him but are obviously taking care of some business that he doesn't want to put his face and name on. So we'll have to wait and see, but I'm definitely loving this episode. It was really good. A lot of little points here and there, and I can't wait to see the aftermath of what happened with Cody's father play out in the next episode. But comment below, let me know what you guys thought of it, favorite parts, least favorite parts, and how do you guys think the show is going to change now that one of Norman's murders is actually out there and everyone knows that it was him, even though it was an accident. Comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.